Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, or at least the 4 or 5 people that listen, this is Talk Junkie. My name's Justin Perkins, and this is a part 2 of a two-parter. So in the first part, we talked about kind of socialization in this area and different generations. You know, how important that was to local businesses and how people interacted with each other, and that the art of being in groups of people and communicating and having life experiences in real life, in real time amongst people. And then we kind of got into how one generation who was very much probably responsible for the boom of that in the late 80s and early 90s were starting to fade away, and how the youth was coming in and being kind of the torchbearers to carry that in to the future. And then suddenly the drug epidemic and the early 2000s hit, and the prevalence of pills and how that kind of changed social interaction. So we were to the point of people going from large groups and social situations, out in public places and in local businesses, to being more compacted and kind of hiding in their house in very small groups, using together. And in the early 2000s into the mid 2000s, this affected a whole generation, or at least a whole portion of a generation that come through at that time, and changed a lot about our society as a whole, and our communities and our culture in this area. And it changed, like we spoke about, how we interacted with people. Eventually there was somewhat of a rebound, that pain caused by that time, and the impact it had on the people who got caught up in it and got caught up in it too much. That can't be downplayed, and it can't be overlooked. That for some of those people will affect them for a lifetime. But it did seem to wane to some degree, especially coming into the teens. A lot of parents were able to help their kids. A lot of kids were able to grow up and get control over their lives and have these different events that changed their lives and shaped their lives. And it also become less socially acceptable, because that's a hard pill to swallow, I think, for some people, but it was very socially acceptable at one point in time. Not by the older generation, but nobody was really interested in the older generation. It was very socially, if you were in the younger generation, it was very socially acceptable in the younger generation. It's just something you did. And that began to diminish. And so now in this area, you have a group of people who were not necessarily involved in that. And they have given up on socialization to some degree, because it seemed like the people who were not involved at all, who did not partake at all, it seems like a lot of them felt very disillusioned by this epidemic and stayed away from social interaction and stayed away from a lot of people because it kind of stained the fun of it for them, and also out of a fear, I would say, of becoming addicted and becoming impacted by it. And I think those people coming in the mid-2000s into the teens were some of the first converters, along with people just a little bit older who missed that, and people a little bit younger who had missed that era, that little phase of this pill epidemic. They become the first adopters in this area, and some of the first people to become more engaged with online socialization. And then you get these people in recovery, coming out. Part of recovery is really staying away from people who had a negative influence in you in the past, and so they're isolated in a lot of ways, and they feel like they can't socialize, they can't get out, they can't go do things, they can't interact, they can't have a life because that'll lead them back down this path that they finally gotten off of. So they, in turn, adopt this social interaction online. It's easier. You're not face to face. If someone sends you a message or a friend's request, and it's someone who was a negative impact on your life in the past, first of all, it's not a face-to-face situation. Secondly, you can block them, you can ignore them, and the people who are still deeply into this, they're not there at this point in time. They're not. It's not that big of a social thing yet, at least in to them that they're involved. So now you've got people who were afraid to socialize because they just, one, they weren't into the type of things going on, and two, for whatever reason, they've or people that were completely well-adjusted, completely perfectly fine, they just decided, hey, let's try this out. Because the appeal of it is instantly alluring. I mean, here's this opportunity to engage with people all over the world, or people who's moved off, people and even still local people. And I think the thought process for most people, probably myself, is this is more of just a casual thing here and there. My main socialization is still going to be in person, face to face. I mean, that's what you do. And so now we've got this shift of people, regardless of where they stood when this whole pill epidemic come through. Now society as a whole is starting to make this shift to electronic socialization, and it's easy, and it's convenient, and it can be fun, and it's definitely addictive. Some of the most important people at these organizations like Facebook and Twitter don't allow their kids to have accounts because they know and openly admit how addictive it is. It's built to be addictive, and that wasn't the case at first. We just, as a society, are fairly addictive people and easily prone to addiction. And then when advertisers and organizations start directing things in a path to where they make it addictive, well, we generally are fairly weak and fail the test. So now we have this large concentration of people online. And in the early days, this isn't a problem per se. It's the birth of a problem. It's the very beginnings of a problem. But we don't know that. Now, going into the tens, we've lost a lot of local businesses. But we've lost a lot of things. We've lost a lot of hangouts and things of that nature. Kids aren't meeting and hanging out at the local mall in the parking lot. Everything, like I said, everything on Pine Top's gone. These stores are gone. My grandfather's store is a wasteland at this point, and Shots is extremely small. That generation is being phased out, and a slightly those people that are 80 by this point and 90 are dying off, and those people that are 55 and 60 at this point are coming in to take their place, but at a lot lower rate and a lot fewer. We still have no new things coming into the county as it were at this point. We had grew slowly the way that a local county or a local city in this area does, but now we've become stagnant. We have developed this, we've got some tourism, we've got this trail ride and things like that, but in all honesty, as far as the growth of the county as a whole, it's not happening. It's at a stalemate at this point. It's at the stop point to where it's faded some, but more than anything, it's just sitting still. Now, in this time period, just social media becomes rampant, and that's, everyone listening to this at this point, on this day, knows that. They understand that. They see for what it is. And some people feel differently about it than I do, but it does. I mean, it's verified. It's backed up by research. It is a claim that has validity and can be supported with valid data and documentation. Social media changed the way we act and interact and react as a people, as a culture, as a nation, and most definitely in this small area that I'm in. Your ability to socialize for newer generations is killed by this. So you have this generation, this group, this niche in this generation, this swath of people who were affected one way or another by this epidemic of drugs and from the pharmaceutical companies. Those people are interacting less because of that impact, whether it be they were on it or they knew people or they didn't want to be involved with, whatever the reason. This is a large swath of people, and they are impacted by that, and that has stopped, limited, and affected the way that they socially interact. Now you've got a group of people above them that just don't know how to communicate. They don't understand how you got to that point. They don't understand how this happened. They don't get it. And so they isolate themselves from you. So that's not going to happen. It's not going to work. It's not going to fix things. It's not going to allow for a reconciliation of any type or a socialization between those two groups. Then you have this group of younger individuals coming up who are so enthralled with this social networking that they don't have the social media, that they don't have the knowledge or tools to properly socialize in a live setting. And it gets worse as time goes on and as younger kids get older. That ability lessens and this becomes more of an issue. So now you have this group, this chunk of people at the beginning of one generation and at the end of another who are just, they lack this ability. And you have this older generation who has passed away and is no longer involved in the equation. And the people under them who are 15, 20 years younger are replacing them, but at a slow rate. And as they replace them, the opportunities and places and ways in which we socialize have changed to where now that 60-year-old man sitting drinking coffee in the mornings at the local spot also is on Facebook. The 50-year-old man is on Facebook and somewhat fascinated. The 40-year-old man is on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. The 30-year-old is just starting Twitch. So you don't... The infection of drugs has waned. I don't think people give credit and to people who have fought this off and beat this, and I don't think people give enough credit to communities who've made a difference, and I don't think people give enough credit to the individuals who have stood up and without any help from any regulation or anything else said, you know what, we're not going to allow the pharmaceutical companies to ruin our communities. We're going to make a difference and try to help these people. I don't think enough appreciation and respect is given for those people. But this is, it's gone. That's waning. It's meth now. It's different, but I don't believe in any way, news is sensationalized. I'd have to look at numbers, and I could be completely inaccurate. And if I am, send me a message and let me know. But I cannot believe for a second that this meth condition is in the numbers in our area that pills were. It's just, I think there's more of a negative light put on this now, and people are outed and judged and fairly or unfairly much quicker now than before, when families kind of hid these issues. And so I think the numbers are down. I think it's just more obvious. But you've got this large group of people. Okay, we've talked about Pine Top. My grandfather's storm stuff was that's gone. That's eradicated. There's nothing there. We've talked about this little hangouts, the mall, places like there's nothing. From 2010 till now, 2020, this local park, the Hyman Park, where these 2 basketball courts, 2 tennis courts, a track, and a playground, that's in great shape. It's kept up, and it is full in the summer. It's packed full in the 90s. Coming into the 2000s, it's packed full. By the time you get to this point in say 2015, let's go to 2015, it's empty. The courts are deteriorating. The nets are falling off of the tennis courts. At one point, I don't even know if there was a playground. It was in shambles. Now there's been work done. They've painted stuff, put up nets. They've done things to it, but it's never repaired. The money's never put in. The bathrooms aren't brought back up to, this is a shell of what it once was, and there's nobody there. I run there quite often and go run the track. I may see a couple people, but not using the park, just driving by. It's now part of an entrance to a housing area. May see a couple people just randomly over an hour, whatever I'm there running, but there's no large group of people. Occasionally on a real nice day in the summer, I'll drive by and see 5, 6 kids shooting ball, maybe somebody riding a bike. This place was covered. This place was swamped with human beings when I was younger, and that's gone. It's gone. Well before movie stores died. Movie stores have died, and they've died for a reason. Well before streaming. Well before any way to watch movies other than to rent DVDs or pay-per-view, the movie stores died. We've had some. I think there's actually still one even open, but not to this level, not packed like Video Solution was. These places went out of business in the early 2000s, 2001. In that time, a little bit before that, maybe even, because there was no people showing up to do that, to be involved with something like that. This festival that they have every year, this gingerbread festival. Things always seem grander when you're a child. I can't tell you numbers wise how many people were in it. I just know that when I was in high school, right before and even right at the tip of this drug epidemic, you couldn't walk past this one bridge. There wasn't room. It seemed so crowded and so packed. And I would spend, get there as soon as I could after I got off school on Thursday or Friday, stay there till they closed it at night, stay there all day Saturday till it was closed, and never leave, and constantly with my friends and hanging out and, just engaged with people. By 2000, I think the crowd was still somewhat there, but by 2001, 2002, the police presence had to get greater. The presence of drugs and all these issues that had not yet sent people into reclusion and into these smaller groups, they were still in large groups, were very prevalent. And so families stopped coming, and sober people stopped coming. And then the cops didn't have to look through as many people to find the people who were, quote, doing something wrong. So then it become, well, you're going to get busted if you go. So then it dies out. And it's to a point now that it's clean. There's no drug issues. It's wonderfully run. It's this great event, but the numbers are down still. And drugs aren't the issue for the numbers being down right now. The issue for the numbers being down right now is people don't interact, people don't talk, people don't engage, people don't want to be in large social gatherings for whatever reason. And some of them have good reasons. But some of it is derived from this almost dependence on social media, this ability to be anonymous if you want to be. But even if you don't want to be anonymous, if you want to be known who you are, you can present whatever you want. You can present who you want people to think you are. But you can also hide. You can also hide and still feel informed and still feel engaged. I seen a picture of so-and-so. They just had a new kid. Did you talk to them? No. Did you even ask some of their family? No. Did they send you a message and tell you about the kid? No. I seen a picture. Did you at least like it or comment? No. You're creeping on people. Not in a negative way, not to be a bad person, because humans are very adaptive. Humans are very good at learning new skills to survive. That's how we've made it to this point. It's how we're the dominant species. But that ability to adapt can also work to the negative, to the contrary. We're adapting to the way that life's being lived right now. There's this thought, I think, in my opinion, I believe that most people feel that growth and evolution are the same thing, and that every evolution is a good evolution because it's meant to happen. I don't believe that. I believe that we can be forced into changing and modifying our behaviors and things into a negative way. You know, is my son, my son and daughter are 12 years apart. Is my daughter better on electronics than me? To some degree, yeah. Is my son better on electronics than her? Massively. You understand? I'm almost 39. My daughter's 21. There's a difference. Electronics, well, she may not be inclined as much, but it's still not a massive difference. It is a difference, but it's not a massive difference. My son, to me, that's a massive difference. It's been a part of his life since day one, and against my better judgment and sometimes my wishes, it's been allowed to be a dominant part of his life. And he's changing. Everyone in that generation is that's involved that way. And they will. They adapt quicker. Their brains are able from an early age to learn to process and change quicker. The issues and problems we have with sight and hearing and speed as far as comprehension and hand-eye coordination, all those things could have been changed for us if we had been introduced. An iPad at the age of 3 would have put me on the same level as my son. If technology didn't change before he was born. Technology is changing, but so are we, and we're able to adapt, and that ability to adapt is good, but you have to understand that there has to be some negatives to that ability to adapt. That constant adaptation to everything has to be some negative in there, and I feel that the negative is it is taking away our ability to communicate and socialize. And that is affecting places like where I live at a far higher rate than it is other places, I feel. Because now here we are. We've made it through this epidemic of drugs. We've made it through we've made it through, I won't know that we made it through, but we're in the middle of this technological change, and the local businesses are gone. The local hangouts are gone. The local interaction in social gatherings are gone. There's a resurgence. There's a desire by people like myself for that to come back. But it's never going to be at the level it was unless something drastically changes. So we lose a lot of who we are as a community and a culture out of these two events. Maybe it's for the best, and down the road we may see that in something. I will say that in 2000, 2001, 99 even, 5 or 6 kids getting together at the mall to hang out and talk after school, even though there's probably 50 there, but a group of 5 or 6 getting together, they're probably going to do something wrong. Probably going to find drugs or get high or, do whatever. There's no kids sitting in that parking lot the days I'm off work and I get to pick my son up from school and we go out to eat afterwards. There's no kids sitting in the parking lot. There's a lot of kids there. They're at the gym, working out, and there's some positives coming. I think people got very unhealthy and a sedentary life after that. I do think that being healthy and being active is making a comeback, and that's something that people, I think a lot of experts thought that technology would kill, and I think that's coming back. And that's a local business that it's like a rehab place, like for injuries and a gym and stuff, physical therapy place. I'll build in together, and it's a local guy, I think local person owns it, and it's so that's getting some people there. These kids are getting together and exercising, and we have this large sports place, got 5 indoor courts, and I'm not familiar with the place because I don't play basketball, but we had my son's birthday party up there, and I seen a guy my age that I went to school with coming in there to play basketball, and I know my nephews who are high school, one's high school age, one's my daughter's age, and I know they go up there and play basketball and stuff, so I know people are gathering around that to some degree. It's not outdoor activities, but it seems to be older people, kayaking, things of that nature are starting to get a foothold. Hiking starting to get a foothold, but it seems like it's people my age because it's something I like to do, and I know I have friends that do it and stuff. But I don't think it's hopeless, and I don't think that social media is the devil and we just can't have it. But I do think we as a culture, and no matter where you're from as a community, have to look at how different things affect your community. And we'll probably come out of this better off than we ever were to a lot of degrees. But I really do miss, my desire when I was younger, not, it wasn't something I constantly focused on, but I always just assumed, I always just thought, when I'm 60, I can sit here in my grandfather's store. I'll be running this store and taking care of this, and when I'm 60, I'll be able to sit in here and my friends will come in here and we'll sit and talk like my grandfather did, and we'll engage and we'll have great conversations and debates, and this will be as important to me as it was to him and his friends and his neighbors. And even if I open the store back up, even if I opened my own store, I don't know that would happen. I don't believe that it would. My wife and I have done almost everything together since we got married alone, without real interaction of friends. It's hard. It's hard to get people together and get people to, and because at this point it's not because people don't always want to socialize. There's responsibilities. We've been asked to do things we can't do. You have children, you have jobs, you have responsibilities, you have other obligations, but it's just harder than it used to be, harder than it needs to be. When my wife and I first got married, I could have a house full on the weekends. I could have people come up and hang out, and I could do stuff, and it was possible. And that's, I got friends I can't get to hang out and do anything now, and my circle of friends have gotten much smaller. because people have moved off, or because I'm not as active on social media. I don't have these interactions with people. So I'm not going to have that experience that my grandfather had. And that saddens me, because I put a value on conversation and interaction that I don't put on anything else, you know. And the most valuable is my family, you know. I wanna, you know, it's hard for a 21-year-old girl to talk to a 39-year-old dad, you know, but I want to know what I can know, what she's comfortable. Like, I want to have that ability to have a conversation with her, you know. The person I have the most conversations with in the world is my wife. You know, we talk about everything, and I value that. And I value my son and listening to what he says and being able to talk to him. I value that greatly. But I do value my friends. You know, if you listen to the first episode, if you didn't listen to the first episode and you listen to this, you're wasting your time, because you have no idea what happened in the first episode. It will make no sense to you. It may not make any sense to you if you listen to both of them. But, you know, sitting down and talking to my buddy Joey yesterday was just fun. You know, it was so fun that we didn't do the one thing we specifically came there to do. We specifically came there to record an episode. And we didn't even attempt it. Because it was so fun. The conversation was so good. You know, and it was hours long. And I do that. And I think that scares people too. Because if I go talk to Justin, I mean, that could be 2 or 3 hours. Could be 4. I enjoy it. I value it. If I'm sitting down and I'm talking to you, and we're having a conversation, understand that I value that and I enjoy that, and that's why I'm there. I put great value in being able to talk to you and hearing what you have to think. I have hearing what you think and what you have to say. And I want the opportunity to do that as much as possible. I want to do it so much that sometimes the conversations have no value, because they're so numerous and so often that occasionally you can just have a throwaway conversation. I used to have throwaway conversations all the time. I don't know to what level I do that anymore, because they're so few and far between. You have to cherish the ones you get. Go talk to somebody. Make an effort to hang out with people. Make an effort to go to a local place, sit down, have a meal, hang out, bowl a game, whatever. Have a social experience outside of your home, in real life, face to face, and try to do it in a local place. If not, go to a franchise place. If that's all you got, go. But help build the cornerstone of your community so that it's there for your kids. Social interaction makes a strong community. The ability to meet, get to know, and engage with your neighbors makes for a strong community. Supporting local businesses makes for a strong community. Being involved in your friends' lives betters your lives and theirs. And knowing them on a level of conversation and comfort makes for better friends. Better friends makes for a tighter community, and a tighter community leaves something better for your kids. The people like me who want to do it aren't enough. Everyone has to make that first step. So get a hold of a friend that you don't really get to see, or make a date, go out with them, even if it's, you and your significant other and them and their significant other. If it's just you guys, whatever, go out, have a conversation, enjoy each other's company, try to do it in a local establishment, even if that's a park, even if it's on a hike, let's go do it. Things are going to come up. Don't get mad. Don't get irritated. If somebody, okay, we're going to do this weekend. Okay, Saturday comes, I can't do it. I got to do it. Things are going to happen. Life's busy. Life's hectic. You've not been doing it up to this point, so it's obvious that things can't be controlled. Things are going to happen, but do it. Get out and have that interaction. If it takes 6 months to actually do it, get out and have that interaction. Push for it. Work for it. Anything in life that's worth doing takes some work. And it was so easy to obtain before, to just have a conversation and meet up with people. It was so easy to obtain when we were younger and before things changed, that we take for granted now that it should still be easy now. As adults in the society we live in with the way things are, that's a hard thing to get. But it's worth getting. It's worth working for. So since it has value, you will have to work for it. Y'all go talk to people. Jesus.